Hey there, history buffs and conspiracy enthusiasts. Welcome back to Debunk Factory. I'm Ragnar Lodbrok's right arm, and today we're sailing into one of history's most, let's say, creatively interpreted theories. By Thor's hammer, we Vikings discovered America 500 years before Columbus. Well, hold on to your horned helmets, folks, because we're about to dive into whether the Vikings really beat Columbus to America, and more importantly, whether there's some grand conspiracy to hide this truth from us. Spoiler alert, this one's going to be a bit different from our usual conspiracy debunking because, well, the Vikings actually did reach America first. Plot twist. But don't worry, there's still plenty of nonsense to unpack about supposed cover-ups and hidden history. So grab your mead, put on your best fake beard, and let's separate the historical facts from the internet fiction. So what exactly is this hidden Viking discovery? Theory? Well, according to some corners of the internet, there's been a massive historical cover-up to hide the fact that Vikings reached America centuries before Columbus. Mock conspiracy voice. The theory goes like this. The Catholic Church, European governments, and somehow the educational establishment have all conspired to suppress Viking achievements to maintain the narrative that Columbus was the first European to reach the Americas. Some versions get even wilder, claiming that Vikings established permanent settlements, traded with Native Americans for centuries, and that there's archaeological evidence being actively suppressed by, the International Bureau of Columbus Appreciation? Sarcastic tone. Because apparently the best way to maintain a historical lie is to publish it in every history textbook, put it in museums, and make multiple documentaries about it? Wait, that doesn't sound like a very good cover-up strategy. The really creative theorists even claim that certain runic inscriptions and artifacts found across North America are evidence of extensive Viking presence that's being ignored or dismissed by mainstream archaeology. Deadpan. You know, just like how archaeologists famously hate discovering new historical evidence, that's definitely not the thing they literally dedicate their entire careers to finding. Here's where this gets interesting. It's note a secret. Around 1000 AD, Leif Erikson, son of Eric the Red, led an expedition from Greenland and established a settlement called Vinland, somewhere on the North American coast. This is documented in medieval Icelandic sagas. But here's the thing. Conspiracy theorists seem to miss. We've known about this for centuries. These sagas were written in the 13th century, and European scholars have been studying them book the 1600s. 1960. Archaeologists Helge and Anne Stein Ingstad discovered and excavated L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada. Definitive proof of Viking presence in North America. The site has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Book, 1978. Some cover-up, right? They literally put it on the World Heritage List and built a visitor center. The archaeological evidence is solid. Norse-style buildings, iron nails, a bronze pin, and even a spindle whorl for making yarn. All dating to around 1000 AD. They found evidence of iron smelting, which Native Americans weren't doing at the time. These Vikings were seriously skilled navigates. They are land-hopped from Norway to Iceland to Greenland to North America using nothing. Nothing but their knowledge of currents, winds, and stars. No GPS, no compasses, just pure seamanship and probably a lot of luck. Who didn't they stay CA? 430 to 600. Now here's where it gets really interesting. If Vikings reached America 500 years before Columbus, who didn't they establish permanent colonies? Why didn't of the course of history? Simple answer, Logistics and locals. First, the logistics. Vikings were great at short-term raiding and trading expeditions, but establishing permanent transatlantic colonies, that's a win differential challenge. These were dealing with supply lines stretching across thousands of miles of ocean using 11th century technology. Greenland, their jumping-off point, only had about 3,000 Norse sets at its peak. They were barely hanging on themselves, but the real game changer was the locals. The saga's description: conflicts with the people they called Skraelings, Native American. And here's the thing. Unlike when Columbus arrived, the Vikings were vastly outnumbered and had no techno-galgal advantage. Columbus had steel armor, gunpowder, horses, and diseases that devastated native populations. The Vikings, they had irony weapons, which Native American quickly figured out how to counter. Plus, Native Americans in 1000 AD were full population strength. No smallpox, no European diseases wreaking havoc. The indigenous pupae basically said, "Tanks for visiting, now get our land." And the Vikings were like, "You know what? Fair enough. This commute is murder anyway." So, why do we emphasize Columbus over the Vikings in popular history? Is it really a conspiracy? Nope. It's about historical impact, not who got there first. Columbus's voyages in 1492 led to sustained contact between Europe and the Americas. His 4 voyages opened up regular trade routes, led to permanent colonization, and unfortunately began the massive demographic and cultural changes that followed. The Viking expeditions, while impressive, were essentially historical dead ends. They made a few trips, established one small settlement that lasted maybe a decade, then packed up and left. No permanent colonies, no ongoing trade, no lasting impact on either continent. It's like asking why we don't celebrate the person who first discovered a hiking trail versus the person who built the highway. Both are achievements, but one had way more impact on how people travel. Columbus's voyages connected 2 hemispheres permanently. The Vikings took a peek and decided they'd rather stay home. Both are historically significant, but for very different reasons. Plus, there's a practical reason. We have way more documentation about Columbus. 4 voyages, detailed logs, tons of contemporary accounts. The Viking expeditions? We've got some sagas written 200 years later and 1 archaeological site. History tends to focus on events with clear documentation and lasting consequences. That's not bias. That's just how historical scholarship works. Now let's address the conspiracy angle. Is there really a cover-up about Viking discoveries? Let's see. Viking discoveries are taught in schools, featured in museums, documented in history books, and the subject of countless documentaries. The archaeological site is a major tourist attraction with government funding. If this is a cover-up, it's the worst cover-up in history. It's like trying to hide something by putting it on Wikipedia, building a museum around it, and making it a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Quick, hide this historical evidence by making it freely accessible to the public and teaching it in universities. The real issue isn't suppression. It's that some people confuse not being the main focus with being hidden. Viking discoveries are acknowledged in historical scholarship. They're just not emphasized as much as Columbus because they had less historical impact. But some folks online see Vikings mentioned in a footnote instead of getting their own chapter and think, "Aha! Cover up!" No, Karen. It's called proportional historical significance. The Vikings made a cameo appearance in American history. Columbus started a whole new season. Why do people love hidden history conspiracy theories? It's actually pretty fascinating from a psychological perspective. First, there's the appeal of secret knowledge. Finding out that Vikings reached America first makes people feel like they've uncovered something special, even though it's been common knowledge for decades. Second, there's the underdog narrative. Vikings are seen as these badass seafaring warriors who got cheated out of their rightful place in history. It's a compelling story. David versus Goliath, except David is a guy with a battle axe. Third, there's anti-establishment sentiment. Some people assume that if something isn't the main story taught in schools, it must be because they don't want us to know about it. And honestly, I get the appeal. Vikings are way cooler than Columbus. They've got the whole warrior-explorer thing going on, plus they didn't commit genocide. It's natural to want to celebrate them more. But wanting something to be a conspiracy doesn't make it one. Sometimes historical emphasis is just based on, actual historical impact. The Vikings were amazing navigators and explorers. They absolutely deserve recognition for reaching America first. But they also chose not to stick around, which is why their story is a historical footnote rather than a major chapter. So what's the verdict? Did Vikings discover America? Absolutely. Are their achievements being hidden by some shadowy conspiracy? Absolutely not. The Vikings reached North America around 1000 AD, 500 years before Columbus. This is well documented, archaeologically proven, and taught in schools worldwide. They established at least one settlement, had some conflicts with indigenous peoples, and eventually decided the whole transatlantic colonization thing wasn't worth the hassle. Columbus gets more historical attention because his voyages led to permanent contact and massive historical consequences. The Vikings took a look around and went home. Both are historically significant, but in very different ways. The real conspiracy isn't about hiding Viking achievements. It's about how the internet can turn "this isn't the main focus of historical education" into massive government cover-up. Next time someone tells you about the hidden Viking discovery of America, you can tell them it's about as hidden as the Statue of Liberty. It's right there in the history books, folks. You just have to actually read them. That's all for today's dive into Viking history and conspiracy psychology. If you enjoyed this journey through medieval maritime adventures, smash that like button, subscribe for more historical myth-busting, and let me know in the comments what hidden history, conspiracy you'd like me to tackle next. Remember, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and sometimes the most extraordinary thing is just how ordinary the hidden truth actually is. Until next time, keep questioning everything about, but maybe check a history book first.